It is the Blitz, 1250 ESPN San Antonio, 94.5 FM, and the new ESPN San Antonio app. The Dallas Cowboys have started their offseason. Let's talk about it with Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett. He joins us now courtesy of AA Best Bail Bonds. Coach, I know the season didn't go at all the way you guys had planned or certainly had hoped for, but as you've had a day or so now to kind of look back and reflect as you prioritize the offseason, what is priority one?
Well, the first thing we have to do is wrap up 2015, and we started that yesterday with our players. We had a team meeting with them at 11 o'clock, and then we go through the exit process, and part of that is our players visiting with the trainers and the equipment guys and a number of other people, but they also visit with their coaches and they visit with me. So I've spent the last couple of days talking to virtually every player on our team and having our exit interviews. And so I think you have to wrap up the 2015 season. We're still in the process of doing that. We'll have some personnel evaluations of our guys. That's priority one. How did guys play? Where are the areas where we need to improve? How can we help our players improve? All of that kind of stuff is where it starts. And then before you know it, we'll be involved in the evaluation of the college players, starting with the Senior Bowl and onto the Combine and throughout the whole draft process. So, that's where we're headed. We'll continue to evaluate what happened in this season in all three phases of our team. We'll go through cut-ups. We'll spend probably a month and a half or 2 months on that as we start to formulate our plans for 2016. So a lot of work to be done. We've already started, and we're excited to do everything we can to do a much better job in 2016 with the Cowboys, and we're bound and determined to do things the right way to get there as quickly as we can.
Coach, you talked about you visit with each and every player, and there's always changes every year. There's turnovers in the National Football League. Is this a bittersweet moment for you because guys that you talk to maybe not be around next year?
Well, unfortunately, that's the nature of the NFL, and one of the things that I try to express to our entire team is how much we appreciate the opportunity to coach those guys, and the commitment that they make for us and for our football team. And obviously, the record was not what we wanted this year, but if you're around our football team and you watched us practice and you watched the relentless spirit that we played with, despite the outcome of many of the games, you're proud to be a part of this team. And I tried to express that to them collectively as a team and also individually. And, there's a lot of decisions to be made as we start to formulate the roster for 2016. And some guys will certainly be a part of it. Some guys won't. That's the nature of the league. But, I think it's important to recognize their contributions to this particular team and certainly wish them well if they're not going to be back, and then get them back to work if they are going to be part of our team going forward.
Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on ESPN San Antonio. And I know you guys won't use injuries, especially to Tony Romo, as an excuse, but was there an area from a coaching standpoint that frustrated you most? Is it the inability to pick up third downs or the red zone scoring or the lack of takeaways by the defense? What's the one area that's going to keep you up most this offseason as you study the film?
Well, like with every year, there's always more than one area, and there were a lot of things that prevented us from not being the kind of team we wanted to be. You mentioned a few of them. Situational football, we weren't nearly as good as we need to be. On third down, in the red zone, and certain other situations in the ball game. At times, short yardage was an issue for us offensively. At the end of the ball game on defense, not being able to make stops like we need to when the game is close and we have a real good chance of winning the ball game. We had a number of games that we didn't, as a football team, do what's necessary in all three phases right at the end of the game, where we had a real legitimate shot to win the game. So we'll go back and evaluate all of those kinds of things. Certainly not taking the ball away from a defensive standpoint was an issue for us. 11 takeaways over the course of 16 games, and conversely, giving the ball away too much on offense. And we have to look at that. And like you said, there are no excuses. You can't fall back on the fact that certain guys weren't playing. We own and are responsible and accountable for the 16 games that we played this year. We own them as coaches, and each and every player and staff member owns them as well. So we have to start by taking responsibility and being accountable for what happened, and then we'll delve into it and try to do everything we can to get better as a team.
Seems like every year there's something new that you learn, Coach. If there's one thing that you learned from this year, would you pinpoint something that you learned from this season?
Oh, Dad, there are many, many more than just one thing, as you know, and there are hundreds of things you learn literally on a daily basis, and one of the things that we did not do a very good job of, if you're looking for a summation of our season, is we didn't handle the adversities of the season well enough. As an organization, as a head coach, as a coaching staff, and really each and every player. And, that's not to say that we didn't fight and we didn't play with a relentless spirit, and we weren't determined to do that. But ultimately, we didn't handle the adversities, whether they're injuries or other things. And the best teams are able to do that. So, we understand the importance of being able to do that and building our team so it can do that, because adversity is inevitable over the course of 16 games in the NFL. The league's too competitive. So we simply have to do a better job in that area, and there's so many things to learn in regards to doing that at a higher level.
Dallas Cowboy head coach Jason Garrett here on ESPN San Antonio. The, benefit of the season that you had is you have a top 5 pick, picking at number 4. Jerry Jones said on the radio up there in Dallas today that he's not opposed to taking a quarterback. There's 2 Heisman-winning quarterbacks from the state of Texas that have been linked to wanting to land in Dallas. How do you approach the offseason when you evaluate throwing in Kellen Moore in that mix, what you want to do at that backup quarterback position?
Oh, I think all those discussions are probably a little bit premature. The first thing we'll do here in the next couple of weeks is we'll have extensive personnel meetings, and we'll evaluate all the players on our team, including all the quarterbacks, and see where we are. And I think it's important for us to pull back a little bit. Sometimes when you make those judgments immediately after the season, there might be a tick too much emotion involved, both good or bad emotion. And I think it's important to pull back and try to evaluate the whole body of work of everybody as you start to figure out what you want to do in terms of putting your team back together again for the next year. So there's a landscape of players. There's guys on our team that we have to evaluate. There's pro free agents that we have to evaluate, and then certainly we have to evaluate the players coming out in the draft. So we'll go through that whole process at the quarterback position, but really at all the positions, and we'll try to be as thorough as we can. And the first step is going to be to evaluate our own guys. In regards to Kellen, he played 2.5 games for us and did a lot of positive things. He really did. I think if you look at the negatives, it was involved with too many turnovers. You can't do that from the quarterback position. It prevents you from winning games. But, when you look at some of the other things he did in responding to some of those turnovers and some of the other adversity, you had to be impressed by his poise and his composure and really his production as well. We threw the ball very well. Particularly in the second half of that Washington game. Kellen was a big part of that. I think he learned over the course of his 2.5 games playing, and I think he got better. And my experience has been that smart guys get better quickly, and he's certainly a smart guy playing that position. So he's got a good feel and instinct for the game, and I think he benefited from that playing experience.
Yeah, from afar, on seeing him and watching him out there, it seems like he got more comfortable as the game went on and more snaps he got. Coach, how big of an offseason is it for him? Because really the lack of strength or upper body strength might be the negative part of him right now as a football player.
It's interesting. He's not a really impressive guy physically. He doesn't overwhelm you. He's not. He doesn't overwhelm you physically in any capacity. He's not real big. He's not real fast. He doesn't have a powerful arm, but he's a good football player. And I think everybody who watched him play over the last couple of weeks, I think, could see that. And in the game, he probably throws it with a little more snap and a little more authority than you might see when he's throwing it on the side. And he probably moves a little bit better during the game, than he does when he's, going through warm-ups or running a 40-yard dash. And, you and I have both seen players like that at all positions. And, I think he's just got a lot of really good traits for the position. He's got a good feel and an instinct for the position. And he's only going to get better. And you're right. He has to keep working on, the physical aspect of his game, getting stronger, working on his movement, all those kinds of things. But, he'll do that. And again, with the experience he got, I think he'll continue to improve as a player.
Yeah, as you talk about his size eyes when little Kellen Moore threw to little Cole Beasley, and you're watching on film, did it kind of look like you were watching a sub-varsity high school game?
It's interesting when you see those guys out there, and both those guys are really good players, and at their own position, they have a really good feel for the game, and they find ways to be productive. So, in a funny kind of way, it gives you a little bit of a shot in the arm that if you go about it the right way and you have an instinct and a feel for the game and you love to play, you can be successful. The old expression about it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Both those guys have a lot of fight, and it's carried them a long way, and it'll continue to serve them well going forward.
Unfortunately, the season went the way it is, Coach, and now you have a chance to move forward. Is there any chance of you guys maybe coaching the Senior Bowl? So you get a first-hand look at those college players?
It's interesting you ask that. We're going to find that out here in the next day or so. And, regardless, we'll be down there if we're coaching it or if we're just watching it, as a coaching staff. It's a valuable week. And it's the week where you see these guys who are coming out of school who are going to be in the draft in the most NFL friendly environment. And what I mean by that is a practice in the way NFL teams practice. NFL coaches are putting through things that, typically, they're going to see at the next level, and it's rigorous. It's not like they're going to play in an all-star game where it's a whole lot of hee-hee and ha-ha. I think they recognize that everybody in the league is represented there, and it's an important evaluation for them. So, we'll find out here in the next couple of days if we are, in fact, coaching it, but if not, we'll be down there doing our best to evaluate the guys.
Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on ESPN San Antonio. You mentioned earlier, Coach, that there is going to be roster turnover. There's always a lot of change. One name that we get asked about a lot here is Greg Hardy. Did he do enough for you guys to want to bring him back next season?
Yeah, again, I don't want to get into any specific personnel stuff about anybody. We'll go through that process here, in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have a thorough examination of everybody and what they did this year, and what they can bring to our team in 2016. So Greg will be part of that whole process for everybody.
Is there a way your medical staff can devise something to protect a clavicle?
In regards to Tony, we've had discussion about that, and I'm far from the expert in that area, but there has been some instances, with the clavicle where you could put something in there like you would, for broken bones in other parts of your body. Sometimes you put a screw in somebody's foot, or whatever the things they do to help strengthen these bones. So I know that's been part of the discussion, with Tony, and we'll evaluate, the possibility of that and the value of that going forward. But, that's certainly been a thing over the last couple of years, I guess this past year and then 3 or 4 years ago, where Tony's had to deal with that. So hopefully that'll be behind him and he'll be back playing football for a 16-game season for us next year.
Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett, brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds here on ESPN San Antonio. Coach, I know we'll probably see you up there at Valley Ranch when we're up there doing our draft coverage, and certainly in Oxnard at training camp, but want to thank you all season long after every game, and 12 of them weren't so good, coming on with us week in and week out. We certainly do appreciate that, and I know our listeners do as well.
Well, guys, I enjoyed it, and you do such a good job for us, and I always have a fun time talking to you, and I appreciate, how you represent our team in the NFL to our fans, and you do a first-class job, and I'm fortunate to be with you every week.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. All right, guys. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Off-season time for Jason Garrett certainly has his work cut out for him. His conversation every week brought to you by AA Best Bail Bond.